ago, our nation faced the challenge of reforming a corrupted Congress. Senators at the time were appointed. As a result, they were not dependent upon the approval of the people to be re-elected. Even worse, senators were known to buy their appointments for office. Senators were susceptible to the influence by special interest groups and often accepted bribes. The people, outraged by this, formed a grassroots movement to amend the Constitution, so senators would have to be elected by the people. Of course, senators were not eager to change the system, but the people persisted, and we were just a few states shy of having the first convention to draft an amendment to the Constitution. Congress was so unsettled by the idea of the states and of the people drafting an amendment that they drafted and passed the 17th Amendment themselves, making senators elected by the people. Today, we face a new kind of corruption. It's no longer the blatant quid pro quo corruption of the last century, but it is a corruption of the very basis of our republic. It's a corruption of our belief in our government. Since the Citizens United ruling, our belief in our government has only eroded more. Congress approval rating, according to a recent poll, is somewhere around 14%, up from its egregious rating a couple years ago of 9%. About 77% of the American people believe that money buys results in Congress. Congress is no longer seen as representing the will of the people, but representing the will of the moneyed interests. In the last election, we saw a few wealthy individuals from both sides of the aisle pour seemingly endless amounts of money into the campaigns of candidates. Some of you may have missed this in the last election cycle, but a local here, John Ramsey, who recently inherited millions from his late grandfather, used his inheritance to start a super PAC called Liberty for All to support political candidates that shared his political ideology. Mr. Ramsey's super PAC supported two candidates for the House of Office, Tom Massey of Kentucky and Kenny Bentivolio of Michigan. Both were underdogs in their primaries, but with Mr. Ramsey's help, they won. Oh, and they won the election, too. I find it unsettling that a 21-year-old millionaire, or rather any single person, is able to immensely influence elections to support their personal political ideology. Not only that, but Mr. Ramsey has leverage in districts that don't even represent him. There are those who say, and I've heard this personally, that this is too difficult a task for us to accomplish, that it's an impossible amendment to pass. But the last century was defined by us as a nation and as a people coming together and accomplishing impossible things. We passed laws to break up and prevent monopolies. We made senators elected by the people. Women were granted the right to vote. Prohibition, and even better, the repeal of prohibition. We survived the Great Depression, we're even stronger when we came out of it. We fought a war on two fronts and won, something no other nation can claim. And after hundreds of years of prejudice, we seriously tackled racism with the Civil Rights Act. We ensured that our elderly would never have to worry about paying for medical costs, and of course, that great American boast, we put a man on the moon. America's history is defined by accomplishing the impossible. Campaign finance reform is not a task too difficult for us, but only if we unite together as a nation, as a people, to work toward it. This is not a Republican issue, this is not a Democratic issue, it's not a Libertarian or a Green Party issue, an Occupy or a Tea Party issue. This is an American issue. The current campaign finance system is the root of all our problems. It has destroyed the foundations of our government. While it is easy, though, to point fingers at Congress and the special interests, we are just as much to blame. For decades, we have grown increasingly apathetic and failed to live up to our duty as citizens to be the stewards of our republic. And as great it is that our state representatives have proposed these bills we are here today to support, we can't rely on the people in the building behind me to fix a corrupt system that they and their colleagues benefit from. Only we, as a nation, must shrug off the chains of apathy that burden us and save our republic. To borrow from Eugene V. Debs, we cannot wait for a Moses figure to lead us out of our current political wilderness. We must lead ourselves out of our own present condition. Today is only the beginning of a great struggle to save our republic. so that Congress is no longer dependent on K Street, but on Main Street. When we leave here today, the burden of change lies solely with us. We have to continue to create awareness of this issue and its remedy. We have to constantly contact our representatives to force them to address this issue. If we want a republic, we have to learn to participate in it. We must learn from 100 years ago and exert our influence as the sovereign onto Congress. Campaign finance reform is a political movement that defines our era. As a nation, we have come together before to make our government more democratic. The time has come again for us to work together to move towards a government that is dependent on the people and not just a few. Only then will we be able to strike at the root of our woes and cultivate a nation that really is by the people and for the people. Thank you.